Greetings and welcome back to Hexed Encountered. I'm Joe. In this video, we'll be continuing our gameplay primer for the game Tankschlacht, Cambrai 1917 from Revolution Games and designer Kerry Anderson. And in this episode, part 2, we will be looking at, or starting to look at, the second part of our sequence of play. That is the movement phase, and that will lead us into Hasty Combat, and then we'll check surrender, which is probably not going to happen on turn 1. And after that, we will, of course, be finished with one half of one turn, because the Germans would then get to go with their turn in turn 1 as well. We do have a couple of turn 1 special rules that we will have to keep in mind here. This is the campaign game, and both the 7th Corps over here and the 6th Corps over here, so the two flanks, are frozen during turn 1. They are literally securing the flank, while the 3rd and 4th Corps are leading the offensive with tanks, right? So as you can see, we've got some breaks in the wire where the tanks crushed it as they came through. We've had battles 1, 2, 3, 4. In all of them were successful. That largely in part, well, I should say mostly in part to two factors. One, the artillery gets doubled in turn 1. That part is now basically done. But also the fact that the tanks can add their firepower to the infantry, and the German line is fairly thinly held. So that all of those things kind of factored together to make a situation where 4 German units were actually destroyed during that first turn, or during the coordinated combat phase of the first turn. All right, one other thing to mention is that cavalry units, and we do have some, there's some right here. These guys, that's one cavalry, there's some cavalry up here as well. They are not allowed to use forced march or marching order in this particular turn. Just a limitation, again, according to the special rules for this scenario. So the next thing we're going to do is, if a unit was activated and conducted combat, or even movement, really, in the, well, you have to move to combat. The first segment of the sequence of play is the coordinated combat phase, and you can only move to go into melee combat. And if you move across the attack across open, AAO as they call it, there are markers for those. Let me see if I can find one. Here's one right here. Now, as you can see, if I show you the flip side of it, and I did show this in the first part, you can see the fire -1 per unit. That's when you're attacking in melee. But underneath that, you see 1d6 MP to remove. So what that means is you have to roll a d6, and that is how many movement points you will lose. And this only applies to the infantry. And the infantry unit in this case has 6 movement points. Whoops. Okay, so before we worry about the units that moved and or fought, actually everyone who moved did fight, we're going to start moving units up. And I'm going to start over here with this tank unit that did not move, because as you can see, there are 3 hexes from their nearest enemy either way. They can't jump the canal anyway there, but same thing applies here. So you have to be within 2 hexes. So if this unit, for example, was here, then they could have moved there across open ground, attack across open, and would have been able to attack, although the canal would have, the bridge and all that stuff. Now you'll see something interesting about the bridges as well here in a moment. So I screwed up with the stacking rules. So the number in the middle here, you can see 1/3. When they're, I guess, together, it's 3. But separately, they're 1 each. And on the infantry counter here, there's a 3 in the middle. That's 3 stacking points. So technically, they should not be able to move together, which is what I was doing. So I'll need to correct for that going forward. That's just a note to keep in mind. Okay, so you have to pay your, of course, terrain effects rules for movement here because we are moving now. So I'm going to take my 3 tanks, and they're going to move here first. So we've got wire and a town, or village, I guess, in this case. So here you see the village is 1 movement point, and the wire, German wire, no cav, no artillery, so no effect, I guess. British infantry gain 1 level of disorganized when entering or attacking into. That is true unless they are following the tanks, because the tanks crush the wire. So in this case, we're going to get, and this is technically no man's land, so I'm not even sure whose wire that is. That might be British wire. But anyway, they're going to cut it and go into the town, which costs an extra movement point. So that's 2. And then they have to cross this bridge. And on this side is another village, which would also cost 2. But before we do that, we have to roll to see if the bridge holds the tanks, because these are wooden bridges. There are, I think, 5 maybe bridges that aren't wooden, and they are easy to find because they are the only ones that have a railroad crossing them. Those are steel bridges, not wooden bridges. So we have one right here. You can see the rail line, I hope, going up here, crossing the canal, and stopping here in Marcoing. Anyway, this one's a wooden bridge, but this one's got a rail line going across it. That's a steel bridge. There's a couple down here in Cambrai. There's one right here. And there's another one somewhere. They're all kind of in this area because this is where the rail lines are. On this side, on the German side of the battlefield, mainly. I don't see any rail lines on the British side. So anyway, when you get there, you have to roll, and you get a 50-50 shot of that bridge holding the tanks. And if it doesn't, then the tanks get stranded on the far bank, which is not a good thing. So the plan was to move the infantry up behind them, because that would crush the wire. So I'm going to roll in my dice tower. And look at that. We got a 6, which means that bridge is down. And so it gets one of these on there. Bridge has been destroyed. And the tanks are now stuck on that side of the canal. They'd have to go another way to try to find a way through. And they can still move and do that. The question is, do we want to, basically try to have another bridge collapse under us? But I guess we will. Well, let me make sure that they can continue to move, because what it said was basically that the bridge collapses and they get stuck on the near bank, so they didn't cross. The bridge broke before they crossed the canal in this case. Okay, so we can indeed. So we've spent 2 movement points to get there. If we move here, that's 3. Then move in here, that would be 4 and 5. And now we're going to attempt to cross the bridge again. So we do have to roll again. So again, I'm in my tower and got a 3. So that time it actually worked. So we had 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And they can move over here. Okay. So that worked. They are now able to attack. But now we need to follow up with the infantry here. And so we'll go, I mean, it really doesn't matter. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And they are now there. And we can do hasty combat against that unit right there. Okay, so let's continue now. Now we have over here these 3 tanks that I'm going to move as well. And they will go, they're actually going to go here. So that costs 2. And then here for 3. And they're going to stop there next to that unit. Now this guy has an attacks across open. So he has to roll to see how many movement points he loses because of that. And we rolled a 1 that time. So he gets he has only 5 movement points. So he goes here for 2, and then here. Well, actually he can't because of the tank, and this couldn't either for the same reason. So they have to stay there, I think, because once you move into an enemy zone of control, I think you have to stop. So they started here. He can cross there, but it costs all of his movement points to cross the canal where the bridge is down. So he still gets to where we need him to be, but he loses all his movement points in doing that. Now this guy, he might not have any options. Okay, after careful rereading of the movement rules, he can't move over here because he would be moving into an EZOC that is not contested. So that is not legal. So let me put this guy back here for the moment, because we do have another option. Now, they started, I think, here. So he could go 1, 2. Actually, wait, we got to back up. These guys can move, or no, this one can move through here into another hex. So I think now I've confused myself. Okay, so we do have a solution. Tanks can move 1 hex after they get into an EZOC, but that has to be the limit of their movement. Now, what that's going to mean is our stacking limit's 4. Each tank company is 1. So if I take 2 of them and move them here, because that's clear terrain and they can do that, right? They can't go here because that's woods, and woods costs 2 movement points, and they don't have that. They only had 1 left. Now this guy can go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I gain 1 point of combat factor. It makes it a 7 instead of a 6. It's still going to be 3 to 1. But it gets my infantry over the river, or canal in this case. And then the tanks are still here, and they can do something next turn. Or they're in a good position. They're already across the canal and holding a position there. And they're on German trenches. And if you're wondering about the trench in terms of movement, main trench is always OT, and secondary trench is also OT. These are main trenches. These thin line ones, those are secondary trenches. And in turn 1, with the tanks, they have the fascines that make any main trench hex they cross into a secondary trench. Okay, now we have this guy here, but we can do the same thing we just no, we can't, actually, because there is no EZOC to EZOC movement. So I think that I'm not allowed to do that. Oh, they are allowed to do that. So they can move, I'm going to take these 2, and we're going to move here, which only costs 1. And then this guy could then go 2, 3, and stop there. And now we've got 3 sides on him. Now we need to resolve this here, because this one has also an attack across the open, so I have to roll for that. And he got a 1 as well, believe it or not. So that means he's good there. And so he actually doesn't even have to move. But they can do hasty combat now. Although, actually, I have to move 2 tanks out of this hex. Stacking rule reasons. So we'll do that. And then we've got this one over here. They also, I believe, have, yes, attack across the open. So let's roll again. Oof, that's a 6. So he can't move. So we're going to take tanks and move them. 1, 2, 3. This goes away. Oh, and movement points are doubled for battle hexes if you're moving through them. So this would be 1. And I think, oh, this is an interesting interesting idea here because we can do some interesting stuff with the tanks. Now, World War I wasn't exactly well known for tanks going off on their own without infantry supporting them. That was kind of not the doctrine. But I mean, we could seize a bridge up here if we if we wanted to, and that is not a steel bridge. That is a wooden bridge, so we could collapse it. The infantry could still cross it, but it would use all their movement points. What I was going to do, and is this 4th Corps over here? That's 3rd Corps still, so that would still work. I was going to actually have him attack this artillery, but he could also go down here and attack that artillery. I'm not going to, I feel like it would be too ahistorical to have them charge for that bridge, so I'm just going to move them there to attack that guy. Now we'll keep moving around here, so I'm pretty sure we have another AA here. Yep. Sure do. All right, let's see what we get this time. Another 6. So they're not moving, but the tanks can. So the 2 tanks will go here, but they can't move any further because they moved from an EZOC into an EZOC. This one did. These guys did not. Then we have this one up here. They also have a tank across the open. So let's roll for this one and hopefully get something other than a 6 or a 1. We got a 3. So that means that infantry gets 3 movement points. So we are going to move here. Let's get rid of, was it this one I was doing that for? Yeah, it was this one. So they can go there for 1. That would be 2, 3, 4. Put them there, and then we'll send a tank with them. And these tanks can go 1, 2, and then the ridge cost 1, so that would be 3, 4, 5. And they end up there. Okay. Now we have one here as well. This is the Highlanders. And they will go, so we have to roll to see what they get. A 1. All right, so they get 5 then. So 1, 2, 3, 4. They'll stop there. One tank will go with them there, and the other one's going to go here. Okay. Now we have these guys that I don't think moved at all. So they can move up as well. We're running out of space here, but we can move them up at least. And if we avoid the battle areas, we don't get, because the battle, if we flip that one over, you can see double movement point in and adjacent. Oh, I haven't been doing that. Yeah, so it's going to be bad no matter what you do. So we're going to take the tank regiment. We're going to take all 3 companies and go here, which is going to cost broken wire already. So that's only going to cost 1, which is doubled to 2. This would be 2 more. That's 4. And then we'll go up here, I guess, for 6 more. And then the infantry here, 2, 4, 6. Then these guys, we don't have anything there. They can go here for 2, 3, 4. And these guys will just go 1, 2. And we can also move these up. Boom. Boom. 1, 2, 3. Move him here. 4th. And then if you do this, if you flip this over and it doesn't have firepower on it, so that must not be a light one. Some of these should have light artillery on there. I think, if I remember the rule correctly. Okay, the light artillery thing I was referring to, that was in the first game, not in this game. So it is in the series rules, but it's not in the exclusive rules. In the exclusive rules, it indicates that all artillery fire is basically done during the coordinated combat phase, except for defensive fire. And there are specific rules on when you can actually use your defensive, your artillery in defensive fire. So let me get back to moving my units. Now, we've got here over, these guys are all frozen. That's all 7th Corps over here. And the 6th Corps starts here. That's a small group. But this is 4th, and these two artilleries are 4th as well. So I might just leave this guy here and have him do Hasty there. I mean, he can't move from here directly to here. I guess he could move there and then move here. But I don't know that I want to open up the line like that either. So we'll just have him attack there. And I'm going to actually take these two. No, I'm not. That's artillery. They have a range of 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah. Well, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And you have to have line of sight. Actually, you don't. So here's the thing. If you want to move your artillery, there's something you have to keep in mind. This is, like a strategic type thing. If you flip them over, you make them limbered. So you can see here, they've got a 4. That's the firepower. The 1 is stacking, and the 0 is movement points. This is unlimbered. Flip it over, it's limbered. No firepower, because they can't fire while limbered. 1 stacking point, and 8 movement points. These two, I don't remember if they were like that or not, but that's how I'm going to put them now. I think they were actually stacked, if I remember correctly. So if we wanted to move them, we would have to flip them over and move them up. And they can't fire in Hasty Combat anyway, as I just mentioned. So you would say, oh, there's no harm in doing that, but they stay limbered until the next movement phase, meaning they cannot take part in the coordinated combat phase of turn 2 if we move them. These guys are far enough back that I think I want to well, you know what? I think I'm not going to move them. I think I'm going to leave most of the artillery, if not all of the artillery, where it is, because I don't know that there's a lot of benefit to moving them up. So back to the matter at hand, we've got artillery here. We have a unit here that has not moved. This is going to, again, be a situation where, his fellow 12th, is that 12th? Yeah, 12th Division. Let's move them up closer to those guys. So they can go 1, 2, and they can't move over the canal, I don't think. The other side of that is marsh, 2 movement points. He's used 2 so far, and crossing the canal, not at a bridge, costs all your movement points. So I think he has to stop there anyway, and he can't jump the canal till the next turn. So I think what we will do is we'll move him here, because he can do that. And then he can cross next turn just by crossing the bridge, because the bridge there is intact. He just can't move across there because that puts him in a zone of control, and that hex is already stacked to the limit. So now we've got cavalry. I would probably like to move up. So let's just move some of these guys. So we'll just go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Let's put them here. And then I'm going to limber the cavalry artillery, and I'm going to put it there. And I think, yeah, that's artillery. I'm looking for more infantry. These guys are kind of the reserve. This one's not, though. Where do we have? That's a yellow. Where do we have the greens? It's tanks. There's green. Okay, we're going to move this guy this way. 1, 2, 3, because of this. 4, 5. So he has to stop here. And maybe I will move these guys up a little bit. Well, we're going to move this guy up anyway. Oh, did I not roll for this one? He's not moving anyway. So, well, let me roll for him. That way it goes away at least. It's a 5, so he would have only had 1 movement point anyway. But I'm going to move his friend up here. 2, and then already on the ridge, so I don't think, well, maybe you do. At most it would cost 4, so that would still be 6, so he's going to go there because of the doubling for the battle there. Okay, then I think I'll move these guys up into the trenches. We'll move him up. That's 2. That's also 2, so that's 4, and that would be 2 more. That would be 6. Then we'll move these guys up as well. That's 2 because of the woods. That's 2 because of the village. 1, 2. Those are artillery. We'll leave those for now. And I think that is the end of movement. So where is my, here it is, sequence of play. Now you move here, terrain effects, costs. You roll a die, lose movement point. If you have a disorganized marker, you roll a die and lose movement point, and you remove a level. And then if you wanted to do multiple levels, you would have to repeat until you ran out of movement points, I guess. Destroy bridge, friendly adjacent, no enemy adjacent. Then you roll for tank breakdown. That's what I need to do. So turn 1, they break down on a 5 or a 6. All right, so we have to roll for every tank that moved, which is every single tank that's on the battlefield. I'm pretty sure. So let's start with that one right there. Okay, 5 or a 6. So he's good. Now we'll do these 2. Top first. 4. Bottom. 2. They're good. We'll do these 2. Top first. 2. 6. This tank breaks down, gets removed from the board, and goes into the tank breakdown box. They can get recovered 1 per turn. So we don't want to have too many of them break down. Now we'll do these 2. Actually, we'll do the ones under here, these 3, starting at the top. That's a 6. That's another breakdown. I guess there was only 1 under there. Now we'll do those 2. Another 6. All right, let's see if we can get some. 4. Okay. What do we have here? Just infantry. Then we have 2 more, 3 more there. So I'll start at the top again. Another 6. That is now 4 tanks out of action. You see how quickly your offensive can stall here. That's a 1, so that one survives. And the next one gets a 4. So those 2. There's 2 there. Now we'll do these 2. Starting again at the top with a 4. Bottom, a 1. These 2. That's a 4. That's a 5. I'm just going to take the bottom one, like I said. Whoops, that's an infantry. Nope, that one's okay. We got these 2. 6. Can't escape it. 2. All right. I did those 3. I did those 2. We got 1 here and 2 there. That's a 4. Now these 2. 1 and 1. All right. That's all of the tanks 5 tanks broke down. 5. That's a lot. Okay, well, from second turn on, they only break down on a roll of 6. We still rolled a lot of 6s, but we did roll a couple 5s. All right, now we can move on to Hasty Combat. So Hasty Combat, you can only attack from 1 hex, no multi-hex. Only tanks and Stoßtruppen may barrage. Okay, so we will attack from here. And we will do, we'll use the tank for a barrage. So that's a 2. And let's see. So with a 2, there's my, here it is. Okay, so this would be, I guess, a standing barrage. I guess. Yeah, I guess it's a standing barrage. So we're going to roll 2 column, got a 5. 2, 5 is blank, nothing. Okay. I forgot the +1 for the barraged, which would have made it a 6, but a 6 is still, here's column 2. Anything 5, 6, 7, even if it was main, it would still be a no result. The D would have been disorganized, so I'm glad we didn't get that. All right, so now we have a 7-3 melee right now, but we have to roll the defensive fire. So they have a 3. There is no modifier here. They rolled a 2. That's not a bad roll. So a 3 with a 2 is 1. So they get a +1 on the attack here. Now they are, for this purposes of this, they do not get the shift to the left. So it stays 2-1 with a +1 DRM. So I'm going to roll here. And that's a 5, so that's going to not be a good result for the Germans here. For the English, rather, the British. 2, 1, 5, +1 is 6. That's a 2-2. Okay. Now, in the secondary trench, because, like I said, it got downgraded because of the tanks participating here in turn 1, they would only have 1 retreat point available. So 2 will eliminate them, right? We know that. So to me, it would make more sense for them to retreat and take 1 step loss, which also removes 1 from the British. So they would also take 1 step loss, and they can move up into that hex, which we want to do because of the opening up of the hex here for other forces to come across the canal. So that combat is done. Now we have more to do. Here we have this one, 2. 2-2 basically is what that is. That's going to be a 1-1. We already have 1 disorganization. We're going to roll for the barrage and see if anything there happens. Because you can only attack 1 hex with 1 unit. Or I'm sorry, 1 hex attacking 1 hex. So for example, up here, we have a lot of options. And I can't even use this guy to barrage if he's not part of the attack. So that's a problem. So you may want to do this and have this guy attack. Let's do this first. Well, what would give us better odds? We got a 4 and a 2. And we got a 5 by itself. So I would say the 4 and the 2 would be better, right? Because that's a 6-3 instead of a 5-3. So let's roll for the bombardment. A 3. And a 3 defensive fire, he is going to get a +1. Comes a 4, so he does in fact get, well, he actually, oh yeah, that's right. That is a 1. So this gets a D1, which reduces its firepower to 2. So now we get a 3-1 there. And he's rolling on the 2 column for his defensive fire. And he rolled a 4. And a 4. Oh, wait, that's a die roll modifier. That's not a disorganized. What am I doing? All right, he gets a DRM. He rolled a 4, becomes a 5. His defensive firepower is a 3. That is a 1. So they're going to get a 1 on their Die roll here, it is a 6-3. That is a 2-1 attack. We got a 4, a 4. A 2-1 plus 1 is 1-2. So the Germans again have a choice. They can retreat. I think they have to be able to retreat out of, they'd have to retreat into another Ezok. So I think that might be a problem. Okay, so he can retreat, but he has to retreat here because he would then be retreating into a contest. Actually, does artillery, I don't think artillery has a zone of control. So that being the case, they don't have a Zok. He can't retreat anywhere legally. Here would be in the zone of control of these two. Here would be in the zone of control of that one. That does not negate it, doesn't make it contested. It's not negating, it's contesting, so he gets eliminated. And because he didn't use his RP, the British have to suffer a step loss. And they will advance. Okay, next fight. Here against here, I guess. 2 against 2 would be what this is, since he has 1 level of disorganization. Let's roll for the barrage. We need low. We got a 1. That is awesome. So 1 is 2. 2, a DRM of 2 for his defensive fire. His defensive fire is a 5 plus 2 is a 7. He barely avoids getting another disorganization point. But he does now have to get attacked at a 1-to-1 odds here, which isn't great for the Germans, and he did not apply a die roll modifier. And they rolled a 1, and at a 1-to-1, a 1 is 1 step loss each. So in this case, I think they were a 1-step unit, I'm pretty sure, so they're just going to get eliminated. So they get eliminated as well. And they have to take a step loss. Oh, they get eliminated too. Okay, well, that was not great. We exchanged some tanks for some artillery, and all in all, that's probably not a great trade. Okay, over here. So there may be some instances where you don't want to attack, I guess, is the lesson from that. So we got a lot of tanks sitting here. We'll do this one, because that's going to be a 7-to-1. I'm not, well, let's do the barrage. It's a 3. 3 plus 1 would be 4, so that would be a 1. So there's a 1 on their defensive fire. Column 1, a 4 plus 1 is a 5. There's no effect. Okay, so now we're on the 6-to-1 column on the melee combat chart. We've rolled a 6. All right, 6-to-1, a 6 is 1-2. Okay, so we know they get eliminated. The German units destroyed box is getting full here. And they have to take a step loss, which would be applied to the infantry. So that's that. Okay, the next one is here. So let's see what we've got in terms of our best bet. 2 tanks, 2 tank and infantry. That's our best. And 3 tanks. So I think we'll do the tank. They have a D1. So they're going to be a 3. So we'll do our barrage. Roll a 2. And 2 is a 1 plus 1 for the, actually they don't get a defensive bonus. So it's just, I mean, it doesn't matter. It's the same thing. It's still a 1. So they get a 1 on their defensive fire roll, which firepower is a 3. They got a 6. 6 plus 1 in the 3 column is a 7. That is nothing. Now we do our attack. It is 6-3, 2-1. Roll the 4. 2-1, 4 is 1-1. 1-1. So they get eliminated. I'm taking some of their artillery off the board here. And he's going to get a step loss, and the tank will move up with him. Now here, We can either do full armor attack or do an infantry attack. I'm inclined to do an infantry attack. And I think I'll just use one of these because it's going to be 2-to-1 no matter who I use. So we'll use this one, which is the 109th Brigade of the 36th Division here. So there is no barrage. We'll roll for their defensive fire. It's a 2. 2 and 2 is 1. So they get a 1 DRM. On the 2-to-1, it's a 2 that becomes a 3. That is a 1-to-2. 1-to-2. They will retreat rather than take the loss, and they will advance. Actually, that's the wrong one. It's this one. Oh, he can't retreat. Well, he can retreat because he gets 1 retreat point. But it's a 1-2. And he's a 2-step unit, so he's going to have to get eliminated. And that means that this guy is going to take a loss. But he will move up. Anyway. Okay. Now, I think I'll have this one attack here, and we'll have this one attack there. Why not? So it's the same thing. Let's see what the defensive fire gives us. I got a 4. 4 is a 1. Okay. So we get a 2-to-1 here. 5 plus 1 is a 6. 2-2. Let me get this out of here. Okay. So that's a 2-2, which means both units are going to get destroyed, basically, unless they retreat. And they can retreat, so they will, which means it becomes a 1-1, and they both take 1-step loss. All right. Now we're here. We do the same thing. See what defensive fire gives them. They got a 1. That is 2. So they have 2 DRM here. A 5 becomes a 7. That is actually better than the 6. It's a 1-to-1. So they will also elect to retreat. And this guy will move up into that hex. Okay. That, I believe, is all the combat. So that would be the end of Hasty Combat. And so now you have to, you would then go to the final phase, which is the surrender check. So you would place isolation markers on units with no LOC, increase level if already isolated. Then you would check for surrender, and then you would remove all the battle markers. So I don't think anybody's isolated. Looking at the board, all of the Germans have at least one path back, right? So I don't think any of them are isolated, and the British aren't either. So I think we're good to just remove the battle and move on to the next turn. But we're going to end here. Depending on the, how many views and likes and comments and all that good stuff happens, will determine whether I do any more. Based on part 1, which is actually up right now, and the way it's been doing so far, it's still early, but it hasn't been doing great. So I lean towards this might be my last gameplay, and then maybe I'll do something like a review. But anyway, we're going to be done with this one right now. So thank you for watching. If you have any questions or comments, please put them in the comment section. I will do my best to get back to you as soon as possible. As I always say, please consider liking, sharing, hyping, or maybe even becoming a subscriber to the channel. I would really appreciate it. But even if you do none of those things, hopefully you will come back and check out another video down the road. Shout out to my channel members. I appreciate the support and always have to thank them for that support. But as I mentioned a moment ago, we are done here for now. So until next time, I'm Joe. This is Hexed Encountered, and as always, happy gaming.